Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN. Today, we have the greatest, the undefeated, the selfless, some may call him, well traveled, or we could say a well traveled traveler. Some may call the number one war lead in the game to date, a former legendary king, destroyer of BDL and ASC and YY, former best Night Rock and War Pets, creator of addendums, not just one, multiple, most loved, most hated, most talked about, most missed, most not missed, and an omnipotent soul. We have the one and only, the Black Stallion, your unique white unicorn, your Pikachu before there was Pikachu. We have Mr. Boo. Welcome.
Yo, BN. Good intro. I could do it better, but hey, it's your show.
Touche. Damn it, Boo. Okay. Listen, man, there's a lot to talk about. This is interesting because you yourself have been. I mean, again, I think the easiest way to say it is just a very polarizing figure to some. To others, just a brethren, a brother in arms. We were chatting a little bit before about how there are a number of characters in the community, and I don't think it's any stretch of the imagination to say that you are absolutely one of them in whatever way anyone, of course, takes that. But the number of you've played in a lot of places, you've been around for a while, you've had a number of alliances and kingdoms that you've participated in, you've fought with. Can you give us, as we kind of, I guess, enter our first topic here, with a little bit of a breakdown on like how did you get into the game? What was it about COD that attracted you? And then a little bit of your history playing so far.
Yeah, of course. So, I've been gaming for over 20 years. I've been around the world. I've played a lot of Kingdom Builders, RPGs, really all of them. And in all my games, I've ascended to the top at one point or another, either as a fighter or as a leader, leading alliances and so on. So, when coming into COD, I really knew what works and what doesn't. Like I've had the experience of knowing what alliances will succeed, what leadership teams will succeed, and which ones are just going to be temporary. And, like I see the issues even before they happen, right? Um, and being, just a spender, an active player, like knowing my value as a player, I've always known that, I can play really anywhere I want, right? I'd be welcomed in any alliance. And I really knew like how I want to play the game and why I played the game. Like that's a question that people really need to ask themselves. I think, right? Like why did you download CallofDragons? Did you download CallofDragons initially so you can play the game, have fun, win, enjoy the game for what it is? Or did you, join the game, play with the same amount of people, the whole time and kind of make like a bond with them? Many people will say the latter. In my experience, very many people will say the latter. But honestly, the truth is, as you change alliances, you just get to meet more people and you get to meet, more friends, more enemies. Like every alliance, let's say it has 200 people. You go to 10 alliances, you've met 2,000 people. You stay in one alliance the whole time, you'll have 200 or 300 people to play with, depending as it goes. So, like personally, in my opinion, if the alliance doesn't work, just go to where you're gonna have the most fun and get what you want out of the game. Everybody has their different preferences. But for me, yeah, season one, I started in BDO. They were the top alliance. I didn't plan to be in BDO. It just ended up randomly like that. When the game launched, I got the game. Um, it was in the App Store. A recommended game, so I tried it out. Um, I had a lot of fun in BDO. When I first started, my plan this time around was to be more casual, like not push to R to T5 because I knew, how expensive that would be, and then people would rely on me to, carry the team and so on. It's kind of the curse of being, a heavy spender that alliances are gonna try to run on your shoulders. So I really wanted to relax, right? But in our first season with BDO, we were fighting DS, which
Yep.
was a pre-made alliance from the Chinese community, and they were freaking good, man. So in our first pass opening, they destroyed us. Like we were about to lose the season. They could have came into our zone one and just zeroed us, and that would have been the end of BDO in my account. Then I probably would have went to a different game. So really, for all the people that hate me, they can blame DS for not finishing me off. um,
There you go.
but yeah, so after the first pass opened, we kind of rallied together, and I said, fuck this. I'm gonna be T5, and let's beat their butts. And that's what we did, right? We beat their butts in the first season. Um, and then season one plus, I actually ended up like being pretty good friends with Duz and the teams there. We'd play Diablo together, like outside of the game and whatnot. But I just got really frustrated with some of the things that were being run in BDO. Specifically because I knew, this would be an issue down the road. Their disregard for people's work-life balance. Um, Primarily, their town halls. They would set their town halls at 20 UTC. It was a 60% American alliance, 40% European. 20 ETC was like 4 p.m. Eastern time, even less on the West Coast. And it was like 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. European time. I kept telling them, this is going to burn people out. Having to um, disregard their work to hop on a town hall for whatever reason, even though it was somewhat optional, you still wanted to be there to participate. All I asked was that they would move the town hall 1 hour to 21 UTC. It would be 5 p.m. for the Americans. The Europeans would still be like around 11 p.m., so they could sleep a little bit later. I didn't feel like it was as big a sacrifice for them to sleep later than for the Americans to, not have to neglect their work. Um, End of the day, Duz didn't agree with that. I got offended. Um, so I ended up leaving BDO mid-season and joining DS. I was on a mission to make Duz and his team pay for disrespecting us Americans. So when I got in DS, I actually you could say I betrayed them. I knew like what the war plans were, and I knew that BDO was very adamant at always attacking DS at 13 UTC. So I told DS leadership, hey, let's prepare ourselves for BDO attacking at 13 UTC. Have everyone there show up. Once we stop them, we fill their hospitals. They're not going to be able to do anything else. That's what we did, and I had my revenge immediately within the same season. DS beat BDO. After DS beat BDO, I had a choice on either staying in DS doing or joining a project to go into a different server because the time zones were very different with DS. I decided to change over to a new project that was making ASC with a couple guys called Wowzer, Abda, Raycloud, Heresy, and freaking Moopsy.
Mm.
Um, I'll talk about freaking Moopsy a little bit later. He's a piece of shit. Tell you what. But yeah, like we made a pretty good alliance for I guess it was what season two at that point. Um, we were gonna be fighting some alliance called Moon. Moon was in the name. But Jason Gee actually ended up buying that alliance. It was quite a shocker for a lot of people. Like he came out of nowhere. He was starting to become famous with TFS and his TFS server. And all we hear is that Jason Gee just bought this alliance, and now we're gonna fight Jason and um, the alliance he just bought.
I think I remember
Um,
hearing something about this too.
yeah, it was pretty epic to be honest. And while we were preparing, we were making war plans, we were making a lot of strategies for running the alliance, a lot of leadership decisions, including discipline. Um, One of my biggest issues with ASC leadership and some folks in ASC is they would not listen to leadership. I would tell them go left, they would stand still or go right. Um, I would tell them, don't take this village. This village is going to be for people with so many merits, and people would still take that village. And then because some people didn't listen to the rules of not taking the village, then more people would take it, and it would just become a snowball effect. I wanted to enforce, harder discipline. Other guys didn't want that, specifically Moopsy. Moopsy, so our leadership team was really one R5 that was more a mascot, who was Wowzer, and then the rest council. Council made the decisions. Moopsy kept wanting to be R5. He wanted to be R5 for whatever reasons. I told him, I don't agree with you being R5. You're not qualified. You're not ready. Um, I tried to bring him under my wing, honestly. I gave him a bunch of lessons. I told him what my favorite book was, Art of War by Sun Tzu. Um, and I tried to bring him on, but he just kept being annoying as hell. Eventually, he annoyed me so much while we were fighting Jason's team that I just left the alliance mid-fight, and then I switched over to join Jason's. Um, while we were fighting them in the beginning, we're actually beating. So ASC was the top dog, Jason's alliance was the underdog. Switched over to Jason's alliance, met a lot of cool people there. Diablo, Epi, Zartir, Mordena. Actually, Mordena was on the ASC side, come to think of it. But met a lot of cool people there. End of the day, as usual, I always win because nobody can beat me once I start war leading, or especially once I war lead from the beginning. So, we got together. We had a tough war plan. Once we got to the Dragon Plateau using the barricades, we stopped ASC. I beat Moopsy's ass as usual. Um, and, we took the win. So that was fun. Next season, we actually ended up matching with TFS, so it was perfect. It was us and TFS versus Noir. Um, we didn't need to do any Diplo since Jason owned both the alliances. So I war led for FS. Jason and team war led for TFS, and we literally crushed Noir. It was a bunch of epic battles. At the end of the day, we were kind of stalemated, and I led FS through the right side of the mountains or whatever they were, into Noir's defeat. So that was freaking awesome. Satoru was 1-0 against me at that point. Um,
Hey, that was the
After
epic
that,
Bellerin season 2, where I think you guys came along the right mountainside and through that mountain choke, and then you guys doubled them going on like the top of the plateau. And then I think it
exactly.
went south. Yeah, and I remember that. Yeah, that was one of the most enjoyable PvP seasons. I still talk about how epic that season was.
Yeah, man, it was fun, and that was my move because nobody else was doing anything. I just decided to start building some sneaky towers on the right side. Nor and I forget who they were allied with. Um,
Wasn't
do
it
you remember?
Dawn?
Yeah, Dawn. They were so dumb, man. Like the way they ran that war, like they should have done two alliances instead of three. Dawn and Dust should have combined into one instead of them doing whatever they did. Because I think they didn't have unions because of that, and we were just able to exploit them the whole season. Like it would be TFS and FS. We'd fight just Nor on one side. After that, we'd go to the right side and just fight Dawn and Dust because we knew that they couldn't help each other. Very poor war leading decisions. But yeah, man, we crushed them. It was freaking awesome.
Got you.
So
Well, why don't
yeah,
you again, because I know we got a number of things I do want to get to. What was, tell me this for 2 points here, or two I guess positions. One, what was the best alliance you were a part of and why? And then what was the worst alliance that you were a part of and why?
yeah. I mean, worst one, it's an easy answer. All of them, except for the one I led. And the best one, easy answer, was Luna, the one I led. Simple as that.
Okay.
They all, had their high points, honestly. Probably a few main fights. My most fun fights were the plateau with FS against ASC, um, and then beating EDS my last season with Luno. Those are probably my most fun alliances and times.
Okay. Okay. So we have a apparently this is again this is being debuted. I'll show this as well. But you have an updated hate list that we're going to get to,
I
and
certainly do.
yes, and so again, I'll show this on screen. I'll let you run it down, and if there's anything that you'd like to add on or any notable comments, the floor is yours at that one. I may have some follow ups here, but I'll go ahead and let you add on anything you need to there.
All right, yeah, number one for many seasons in a row, even after I've quit for 2 seasons. And, just a quick disclaimer, the hate list, it's nothing personal. I don't wish anybody bad in real life. I hope everybody has a great life. But inside of the game, man, I love hating people. It makes the fun a lot more enjoyable. Like when you beat someone you don't care about, yeah, it's fun. But when you beat someone you hate, it's just awesome, right? So I've always been a proponent of hating people. If I have a chance to hate someone, I'm gonna take it 100% of the time. So number one person I hate, Moopsy, biggest fucking trash. Besides all of the stuff that I said, um, like right before I left, I put a marker in ASC. This spot was for Boo, right? I was the strongest account by far. In that season, it was a very strategic spot, and fucking Moopsy just took it. That's when I left the alliance and I just started crushing them. So fuck Moopsy. Number two, Wahid, unbearable penguins. Wahid's a nice person, man, but she is so annoying with those penguins. Like if I see any more penguin emojis, I'm gonna jump off a cliff. I swear to God. Number three, Tempe, biggest noob. After I left TFS with Sod, the whole Sod versus Jason debacle.
Yep.
I was part of council, and we started building like a really, really solid team. Tempe was part of council, and actually Tempe was a core 5 with Sod, um, because he was bringing a lot of people.
Yep.
We were fighting BDO. We were coming up with strategies, and Tempe was the biggest fucking dumbass. Um, he didn't want to build towards the right side as a backup. And if we were going to lose to BDO, we would have lost the season right there. He wouldn't listen to me. I got mad. Um, I added him to the hate list. Eventually, after I rage quit the leadership team because of that, they did end up building on the right side, and they, still won the season because they finally listened to me. But if they didn't, that would have been a loss. Number four, Nuno. This dude, reason he's on the hate list now, I don't even know him that much, but it's because of his fake promises. When I was trying to save Luno for the future seasons with migration, his plan was to stay in there. I don't know if you have a screenshot of, his promises.
Mm.
Do you have a screenshot of his promises?
For the was that the that was the mail, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
let's
yeah.
see that
No,
for a
I got that.
second.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I got that up.
Let's see that for a second. So this guy, he was competing against me for R5 and what we're gonna do in the future season. At the time, I was actually playing a farm. But his plan, as you can see on the screen there, it was very butterflies. It didn't say anything. It was a bunch of promises. Like my plan is I'm gonna bring my account here, and my plan is we're gonna stay together, and we're gonna have an amazing season. It didn't say anything. I feel like his fake promises really misled the whole Luno alliance into thinking that there was actually hope with this plan. The Luno folks, they went with this plan. They voted for him. I resigned R5. I let him, run the ship as he wanted to, and Luno's dead now, right? Because his plan was stupid. My plan was going to keep everyone together for the most part. We were going to migrate. We were going to merge with an awesome alliance. Um, and you can see where Luno is now. Everybody is split up. It's a tragedy, honestly. And not only that, but the previous season, he brought in all Zoo into the server, from what I heard. like those guys were expecting, an amazing combined kingdom, and all of the guys in Luno, because of him, ended up leaving. So all the folks in Zoo who spent $400 each to migrate to server 5, they ended up being by themselves again. All of those guys, they just wasted all that money. That's criminal in my opinion, honestly. So he's there for really ruining an amazing community that we had, um, with his fake promises. Number 5 is YY, fake ass billionaire. In the Luno versus EDS fight, we allied with YY. At the time, when we allied, we didn't really have an agreement on, if we win, who gets the dragon. But right after we beat them, he said he wants the dragon. The reality is, his team, they only fought T4 Alliance the whole season. My team, Luno, with the help of Zoom, we fought EDS, right? A full T5 alliance. We crushed them when YY's team fought EDS. They quit after a day, right? So even though they might have had more merits, the fact is all they fought was T4s. EDS, they would have won without us. So Luno Zeus deserved the dragon. This guy started threatening people right away. He started threatening me. He was like, "If you don't give me the dragon, I'm not gonna work with you again, and I'm gonna remember this." A lot of like passive aggressive stuff, like trying to scare me or whoever that we're not gonna be friends again, and he's a scary enemy. I didn't give a shit. I told him how it was. But what made it even worse was number 6 on the hate list, Fishbowl. Fishbowl was the Diplo lead of Zoo we were allied with. I expected the whole time that Zoo would be with us, right? Like if we were a team together, we would want the dragon for our members, all of our members that fought the hardest. Instead, Fishbowl, he capitulated to YY. He decided to actually give the other side the dragon, instead of his own team. Not only did Luno and Zoo crush GDS, but the truth is, I actually war led for Zoo the entire time. Tinzy, he actually built for all of Zoo the entire time. Like Zoo's leadership was very absent. Their fighters were very good. Their fighters were there, but their leadership didn't do squat. It's also kind of ironic. As soon as I heard that Zoo was merging with Luno, I was thinking, what the hell kind of decision was that? What Luno needed was more leadership. The reason that Luno died and the reason that I wanted to migrate Luno with and merge with a different kingdom was because we were lacking leadership. It was really only me doing most of the work. Some of the officers were helping a little bit, but it wasn't sustainable. I needed more war leads. I was the only war lead at the time. I had a literally war lead 24/7 and not sleep for a couple days. The alliance we were going to merge with was going to have war leads. Who they merged with, they didn't have anyone. Fluffy ended up having to do everything for Luno, poor guy. But Fluffy's the man, by the way. Um, so back to the hate list, right? That's why Fishbowl is a piece of shit because he betrayed not only my alliance but his alliance. And you know what happened the following season, Bien?
No, tell me.
He joined YY's alliance,
Interesting.
right? I'm guessing he probably had a side deal with YY. Either he got paid or he got promised to, go there or whatever. So he abandoned everyone in Zoo again. So that's just the type the fishbowl is. Number 7, Mubin. He's the biggest joke. Honestly, I don't even remember why I hate him, but I just remembered how much I hated him, so he can stay on that list. Um, and his hairline will always blind incoming traffic. Number 8, Chisco. This guy I want to talk about, BM. This guy, I think that he's one of the main reasons for a lot of the failures in CoD Dragons. And one of the main reasons that CoD Dragons is not a successful game as it could be. Um, Most of his content, has always been, spinning the wheel. If you look at his account right now, it's probably all spinning the wheel videos. He never did real content on Call of Dragons. He never engaged with the community. I think he was classified as like the highest kind of content creator or partner with Call of Dragons. But if you would even add mention him in the Discord server, you would get a warning from the mods because you weren't allowed to talk with them. Um, all the money, I don't know Well, I do know how much money he got paid, but I'm not going to say that. But all the money he got paid for being a content creator, that money could have went elsewhere, and to an actual content creator who could have attracted more people into the community. He was a waste of money for COD, a waste of hours for people to watch, just an absolute failure of a content creator. And not only that, like not only did he fail in bringing value, he actually subtracted value. Because of his obsession with being betrayed, he cried to the moderators, and they removed the ability to change alliances mid-season. Removing the ability to change alliances mid-season has caused a lot of people to quit. Once they were stuck in an alliance they didn't like, they had no other choice than just quit the game. So that guy, number 8, hate list, he deserves it. Number 9, Himothy, he's just a hater. He hates me because I hate his friends, so I hate him back because of that. And number 10, Midget, I don't really hate him. He's actually a pretty cool guy. But a lot of people they want to be on this list. There's a lot of pedigree to be on this list for whatever reason. So I promised him once when we made a deal that he can be on this list, and I'm just paying my debt by keeping him on the list. Dishonorable mentions. You'll see Satoru there. That guy, he killed Noir. Um, Noir, when I joined, it was a pretty good alliance. It was very famous at the time. It was number one. He ended up falling in love with an e-girl for the multiple time, and killing the alliance for the
That was a
multiple time.
wild news storyline, by the way, when that came out too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, man, come on, bros before hoes. Simp Toro. You know, um, I joined, a lot of people joined, and then he just quit. All of his officers quit. You'll see them on the list right next to him. Strange Satan. Piss kind of quit the game. He was still kind of in the alliance. But, his officers quit before him. Then he quit. When they quit, they just migrated out, but he actually quit. He was saying he was going to quit the game. Um, but then to make matters worse, he actually just migrated, and then he started trying to poach members from our alliance as we were just trying to survive. So he's a piece of shit. He's really not that good. People will say that he's the best Roots of War leader in the history of all time. I'll tell you the truth. He's not that good. Um, Noir at the time, when everybody thought they were the best Roots of War team, when I joined it, I realized they were not good. Their starting strategy was very sound, but they never fought anybody good. They kept fighting T4s. People would just do whatever they did. They were not organized once the fight started. And if they fought a real organized team like Echo or NTS, they would have gone destroyed. Nobody realized that because they were in like a time zone that nobody really fought in. They just fought weak alliances, so people thought they were good. But Satoru was honestly overrated, and it was fun beating his ass for the second time when he joined EDS. I heard he's kind of quit since then. He got an Mephisto's account, and he's not even playing it anymore. Um, and that goes to the next dishonorable mention, Strange. The reason she's there, she was borderline being on the hate list, but it's been a while. I hated her then. I don't really care as much anymore. But after Nephisto quit and with the whole Satoru thing, we needed to get rid of Nephisto's account from our server. When I asked her, if she could just migrate it out since she, had some keys there, she was the rudest person, one of the rudest people I've ever spoken with. Very disrespectful, didn't seem to care about her old friends. She's really two-faced, so, she's there. Satan, another one, just like Strange. By the way, all three of these people, they were just piloted free to plays, right? Like Mephisto got them their accounts. They were not good ever. They just kind of, rode Mephisto's train. Satan, that guy, when Noir was breaking apart, the reason he's there is he was the Noir server moderator, administrator actually, and he started making fun of what was happening. He started making light of it, joking. I think he made a bad reference to Noir that I took offense on. So he can say that if your alliance is about to die for what Satora did, you shouldn't be laughing at it. You should feel the pain of your members. You shouldn't be laughing at them. So he deserves to be there. Piss. At one point, he said I was the greatest war lead. Then after I left, he started talking shit. So there he is. Luno Council, they're there for supporting Nunu and kind of orchestrating the campaign for him to win and the fake promises that really ended up ruining the alliance. I hope that wherever these guys from Luno Council go and Nunu, that people will remember that, they shouldn't be trusted as leaders. They're not experienced. Luno Council and Nunu, they were actually the leaders of the VVV Alliance that merged into Noir, and they basically ran VVV into the ground as well. So this is really the second time they've killed an alliance. And Wowzer, this honorable mention, when it was the ASC versus FS season, he ended up changing sides, coming to us. He requested that he be an R4 as part of the deal. Once we made him R4, he ended up trying to delete towers. That Trojan horseshit was uncalled for, so he's forever going to be the dishonorable. And last, expired hate. I used to hate 20 plus people, but with time passing, I don't hate them anymore. I don't hate Bunny anymore. I don't hate Jason anymore. Dark, I'm still mad at. He ended up trying to flirt with my ex-wife without asking for my permission, which is unacceptable because he was my boy, and boys always ask permission before trying to hit on their exes. So bro code violation, Dark, not cool. And yeah, anybody else I forgot about, they're forgotten. I don't know who they are.
Understood. But to be honest, that was a lot. Uh,
I love to hate.
that was wildly entertaining, I will say. It's funny because I think I've known Moopsy for a little while. I've had good conversations with him. I've talked to Wahid multiple times. I think I've interviewed her twice now. Teppy, I think lightly chatted with. Nunu, I might have only DM'd a little bit for Luno for like manager if I was reaching out to ask a question or something. YY I've chatted with a bit. I actually did ask YY to see if I would have been able to sit down and have a conversation with him. Ended up just never hearing back. I've talked about that a little bit. Mubin actually was a part of my K65 project, and he was a part, I believe, of one of the teams that we had before eventually he went over to go join Bob, and I'm forgetting the other gentleman's name too as well there when they kind of made the roguish alliance or the alt one. And then Chiz, actually, shockingly, I'm back on good terms, which is after he read what I had explained about the misunderstanding. And Timmy, I've only had good interactions with Timmy's because he used to be in GG back when they were, the OG gangs. And Midget, I think I just see Midget chatting every once in a while. I don't know if I've had too many conversations with Midget myself. The Satoru thing is interesting because I know when I had interviewed Naf, when I did his exit interview, he told me that, he left. He basically gave Satoru his account, and then obviously it was renamed from Nefista to Satoru. And I remember hearing people talk about how, it was iffy because people were saying that like one of the storylines was that, well, is Satoru going to be able to keep up the spending that the account requires, or even be able to keep up the spending for the tier that the account is in. So hearing you say that and hearing other people say that, like that to me feels like, a little bit more of a connection there. But aside from that, no, very, very interesting on that one. Okay. Our next topic here is, again, you've done ward leading as you stated, right? Proclaimed, whether that's self-proclaimed, others, right? Best ward lead, one of the top ward leads. For you, in your experience war leading, what are some tips that you would give out to people that you think are just absolutely must do's? And then on top of that, what are some do nots or some must do nots?
Yeah, I mean, being the greatest war lead in the history of CallofDragons and honestly the world is very undisputed. People will dispute, being the best R5 or whatever else, but I can show you millions of messages from people saying how great a war lead I am. It's just a fact, here's some of the main tips and reasons. Um, One, you gotta consider fighting in the game as a sport. When you play football or soccer or basketball or whatever, you need to practice, right? You don't just go straight into the game and try to figure it out there on the spot. In all of my alliances that were very successful, I was very adamant about having practices and training sessions where, we would all get together. and we walk through the motions without the adrenaline and stress of actually fighting. You need to go through those steps as a fighter and as a war leader for everybody to know exactly. When I put a marker for you to go here, I need you to go here exactly on the spot, not 2 inches to the right, not 2 inches to the left. Go there exactly on the spot. And one of the bigger tips as a war lead is just damage per second, right? Um, if you're charging into a group, right? Like let's say you have 100 people and you're charging into a group of 100 people. You want all 100 of your guys to attack at the exact same time, right? You don't want 10 people to go ahead, a 5 second gap to the next 10 people, and then so on and so forth. Because if you go in staggered, it's going to be 100 versus 10 for 5 seconds, and you're already going to instantly lose 5 people, so on and so forth. This is one of the biggest fallacies that I see in combats for alliances across the game, is they do not organize their movement, right? You need to move as one. You need to go baby steps at a time, right? Like if you're going to charge into the enemy, you're gonna want to move just a few inches away from them and then fully charge. You don't want to do it, staggered. I see that all the time. And you practice that, and you also practice more techniques, right? Like as a war lead, you need to actually envision the battle before it happens. I would always take my time and I would really simulate it in my head before the fight even happened. I knew that we would want to position here and fight from here. I knew that if we push them, we would want to stop here and fight from this position. If they pushed us, we would want to go to number three, so on and so forth. And where I'm getting with this is I would actually pre-position markers across the battlefield and numbering them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 20. Um, then as the battle went on, I would just tell people in voice chat. Everybody had to be in voice chat, by the way. Um, go to this number and everybody would move instantly. There would be no misunderstanding, right? And that would give you a lot of abilities. It would give you the ability to do a tactical retreat. Everybody just falls back to number three, stops there, makes the line between three and four. Then as the enemy starts chasing, thinking that you're retreating, not just repositioning, you're gonna actually crush the numbers. Um, Voice chat, like I said, is one of the key requirements. But not only that, like obviously, some people are going to be at work and they're not going to be able to voice chat. Another pro tip is you need to have designated people during wartime, designated people to communicate whatever was said in voice chat, just type it in game. We did that, and worked very fluidly for all the alliances. When we fought Luno versus EDS, if you look at one of the videos that the NTS leader did when he was observing it, you can see the clear difference. You can see how organized we were in terms of positioning and moving. We actually ended up we had a line of infantry, from top down, and we had all of our mages push into their line of infantry because their infantry was 5 feet away from their mages. So we got a lot of clean hits in. Our mages retreated. Then when they pushed, our infantry pushed. Those were techniques that we actually practice, right? Um, Practice is just critical. Being able to predict, the battle is critical, and also being involved in the whole strategy, including building, is critical. If your building team sucks, if they put you in bad positions, you're either going to have a harder time to win or you're not going to be able to win, right? War leads need to fully engage with the building team so that they have their plan B, plan C, plan D, etc., all mapped out just in case something bad happens. I'd say that those are some of the best tips I could give people that I don't see happening all the time.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. What about as we transition a little bit to again, I know you've had some stints as an R5. Obviously, with one of the more notable ones, for one that you already alluded to, which was the time spent there in the war, right, aka Luno. What, whether it was from that experience or from others during your time, because for me, I do find it interesting to hear from people that have been R5s on what they on not only on what their personal situations were, but what they took away from the positions that they had. What are some of the takeaways that you had and or tips that you felt like these things would have just made Like if I knew them my first time around, right? Like they just would have made me so much better.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I could honestly do, many sessions on this. There's so many things that an R5 needs to do to be good. So let me think about a few things to consider.
Sure.
Right. Number one is the buck stops with the R5, right? When I was the leader of Luno, even though my builder messed up putting a fortress by the first pass and we couldn't go in, I actually took full blame for it because, the buck stopped with me. I should have supervised it better. I should have caught it and I should have stopped it. That's one of, my biggest issues with R5s is that, they don't take accountability and they don't take control of, their alliance. You need to realize that, you know, everybody is a person, within your alliance, and that they're heavily invested in the game. Especially when you're the R5 of a competitive alliance, which I've always been, right? Like you're basically the R5 of a multi-million dollar company because people have invested tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, you need to make sure that you understand what people's priorities are and, why they're spending that money, why they're there, why they're playing, what drives them, right? I would always do polls within my alliances. I would do very particular polls that would answer, specific questions. What do you enjoy the most and how much do you enjoy it? How much do you enjoy behemoths? How much do you enjoy PvP? How much do you enjoy prolonged PvP? Um, you know, just all sorts of questions. What time do you go to sleep at? What time do you wake up? What time do you go to work? What time do you come back? I was trying to, use all those data points, which I actually did with Excel formulas, etc., and my data teams. Um, to understand, like what's the dynamic of the alliance, what time zones are they in, when can they actually fight freely, like when are they going to enjoy fighting versus when is it going to be a burden for them, when am I going to require them to fight during work or during sleep and all that kind of stuff, those are all considerations that I need to make because ultimately, you need to motivate your team to fight and you need to control burnout, right? If you keep pressing people against, their means, either money, resources, or time, eventually they're either going to quit or they're going to change alliances. So you need to be careful with that. You also need to understand, when and where you can push them. Um, you need to have a good leadership team. You need to have war leads that can cover multiple time zones, and you need to make sure again that they're not going to be burnt out. You need to have a very good data system, right, in terms of tracking performance. Um, whoever's getting the most merits, whoever has the most power, whoever is not doing anything, you gotta identify the slackers so you can get rid of them. You gotta identify the active people so you can encourage them, you can reward them, you can praise them. You know, you got to use data for everything. When I joined TFS, actually, funny story. That was I think CallofDragons is Jason's first um
Kingdom builder.
builder,
Okay.
city builder, yeah. And he did not believe in data at first. Like at the end of the season, he would just make a list of who he thought was good and who was friends with who, and he would use that for keeping people. I was like, Jason, we need to use data. Um, ever since, well, maybe a season or two after, he really understood the power of data. Now he's a big data guru. But I'm telling you, any successful alliance is gonna have a very strong data team. When I was looking for partners to merge with. I was really judging their leadership team. I made a decision who I wanted to merge with if Luna was going to vote for that. And that team had a very outstanding data team. They had very good leaders. It would have been a good merger. Um, knowing your people, knowing the data, being present for the team, being approachable, all important things. I could go on and on. But I'd say that those are probably the key elements of being like a good R5 for a top alliance.
Okay. Okay. No.
Oh, and
Yeah.
one more thing actually. There's that balance, that you gotta have with people. Um, you may have a group of people, right? Like let's say you have 10 people, and eight of them are really good. They're performing as much as two normal people would, but two other people are slackers, right? One of the biggest debates in any game that I'm in, any alliance that I'm in, is always very repeated. Are we gonna sacrifice the eight people that are in a group to get rid of the two people that are not performing, right? And that's a tough decision that an R5 needs to do and manage. You know, if you have people on the outside, that are going to be coming in that can be better, you can consider it. But at the same time, you don't want to just discard people right away. The people that are slacking, they're going to hurt morale. But, you need to explain to the alliance that, those guys may be slacking a little bit, but these eight are more valuable than, 20 people combined. So for the benefit of the alliance, right, we need to keep it up. But, the eight friends are pushing the two slackers to do better. Um, these types of groups, honestly, they really hurt alliances and they hurt the people inside of them. Just a quick redirect, right? There was a group that Mordena was in. I'll never forget. It was one of the biggest tragedies in COD. Mordena was one of the strongest fighters you've ever met. She was in a group of people that completely sucked. Nobody would take that group because they sucked. Mordena was really good. She could have went in any alliance she wanted, but because they dragged her down, she ended up quitting. So just sad, man. You're gonna have to manage groups like that all the time. So you just need to think pros and cons and be very communicative with the alliance. Um, just what it is. One last thought with war lead, by the way. Another critical aspect is communications. I would have different types of alerts depending on the scenario, right? So I would have emergency alerts that everybody was part of the role. So, if there was an emergency, everybody would get pings. Then I would have a alert type of notification, and then a fight type of communication. Alert, I would ping the alliance. Well, I would ping the alert group for anything that would happen. Any small fight. It didn't matter. That was for the degenerates, right? Fight was for the bigger ones. If there were, more people involved, people could come to fight for the bigger ones, or they could go for the smaller fights. Being able to distinguish between the type of fighting and always communicating the situational awareness on the field with your alliance is critical. That'll show crazy activity versus you just pinging the whole alliance for a small skirmish, or actually not pinging anybody at all for small and moderate ones and taking bad trades. Communication, top EN.
And listen, I can absolutely agree there. I think for the amount of comms I've listened into and the amount of alliances I've had the privilege of corresponding with and just hearing about how they go about doing their war leading and just their PvP prep, it seems very much more so that it is slowly becoming a hard stop minimum requirement. So, very much seems to be the case going forward, and I'm sure what many have and will continue to adopt. Okay, so as we, which I think this is actually a really good transition because I know time might be a little limited for me going forward, but I do at least want to get to some of the main remaining topics that we have. And I know you had mentioned about Mordana and the quitting. Now, there was something you mentioned to me before we started recording, and obviously it seems as though whether that is an announcement or not, I feel like that could be something that I can uh, give you the floor on. But there obviously seems to be a case, and I don't know how many people exactly know of that yet. But I know you were telling me a little bit before we started that this could be, or maybe your final season.
Oh yeah, BN. I've actually quit 3 seasons ago.
Well, damn, never mind
Um,
then. Okay, man, I was trying to lead that up well, but all right, 3 seasons
so
ago.
let me tell you this story,
Go
right?
ahead, go
So
ahead.
three seasons ago, I sold my account.
Okay.
I was ready to get out of the game. That's when I was in the war and Satoru literally just quit.
Okay.
Just as my foot was out the door, right? I felt really bad for all the friends that I made in the war. A lot of people that I had a lot of respect for. Their future was doomed, so I decided to stay and take R5 and lead the alliance to success for an undetermined amount of time. But for that season, I actually led with just the farm. I literally
Yeah.
was an R5 with the farm. It was pretty funny, honestly. A lot of people judge me for it, but you
Oh
saw
man,
the end results,
people were
right?
talking about it on the COD Discord
Yeah.
for a while when
You,
it came to light.
yeah, you saw the end results. But after that season was done, I was still gonna lead with a big plan, but Nunu took over, so I just stepped away. I haven't played the game for about 2 seasons now. I've still been watching some videos. I've been hearing from friends on what's happening. It's kind of like I'm watching a show at this point, like a TV series.
Hmm.
How is this alliance doing? How are these people I hate doing? It's entertaining now at this point. I'm not as much engaged anymore, but I still have that omnipotent, knowledge.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. Okay. Well, no, I appreciate that because I wasn't when you mentioned it, I thought, okay, well, maybe this was recent, but okay, 3 seasons ago. Okay, that clarifies a lot for me then. Okay, and then
Yeah.
I guess our last two that I want to make sure we absolutely get to, which is the first of those. Any shout outs? I know that you've already alluded to a number of people that I know you've given some love to, but again, when it comes to the shout outs, go ahead. The floor is yours there.
Before shout outs, I just want to say, I'm obviously the greatest interviewer as well. And I think that people want to know the reasons why I quit, right? Let me just take a quick second on that.
Sure.
The main reason the main reason is the game stopped being fun and
Yeah.
it started being very tedious, right? In the first few seasons, you would fight an hour or two, you'd be out of troops, somebody would win. Call of
Yeah.
Dragons ended up removing the troop cap, so instead of them raising, how many troops you can go on the field with by 100,000 a season, um, they they stopped it at 300,000. So fights became longer and longer and longer. Instead of fighting 2 hours, then you fought four, then six, then eight, then 24 hours without sleep, without anything, having to take off work or fight during work. It wasn't fun anymore, man. And the fact of the matter I was spending money to actually have a job in here and do stuff that I wasn't enjoying. So once it came to that point, I just wanted to quit. And I already told you the exit story.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you're
well,
welcome for
you
me
know,
saying
on
it.
that as well, though, to add on to that point, it wasn't just the troop caps; it was all the elixir changes that they were doing,
Yeah.
which there was multiple that happened that the many people in the community were very displeased with. They just were not excited about that at all. And then now what's funny about all of that, right? To your point as well, is that happens, the elixir stuff happens, and then you get to what we're seeing now recently with oh gosh, I think it was one of the most recent update where they then talked about how now they're putting in a basically handicap sustainable feature where if you're having 30 or more units targeting, you're going to have a little bit more survivability now, where it's going to be like a damage reduction buff, they say by a very small percentage, but it's ideally to have longer lasting troops. That's really what the overall point of the feature being added. So it's just interesting how they kind of went like how it was initially, as you were saying. You basically see what some would appear to be nerfs, and then it's like buffs, and then it's some other nerfs, and then it's like okay, now it almost just kind of feels like a roller coaster in a sense, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Exactly. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. That's a stupid change. I heard about it. I don't know who requested that change, but that person can just walk on Legos. I'll tell you that.
Okay, understood.
It was probably Moopsy, honestly. I think it was Moopsy who wanted that change. So Olacad, they should blame Moopsy and take care of him for that.
Touche. Well, we'll sound the alarms. Okay, as we get to the second to last one here, any shout outs obviously that you have?
Yeah, I just want to say, as I'm watching, the alliances continue, in my absence, I'm just really impressed with Jason and TFS. He didn't pay me for this. Jason, you should actually pay me because I'm saying this. Whatever you're normally giving guns on his streams, give me like 10 times of that and we'll be solid. But anyway, like TFS, man, they almost died after Sod stole the alliance from Jason. It was like 20 members. They were like 5 billion powers. I was telling Jason at the time, Jason, come to Noir with me. Come to Noir and learn from Satoru. Learn to be a good R5 from Satoru. Jason was like, no. I'm either going to be R5 or I'm going to be nothing. I was like, you're crazy. But, like his level of commitment, man, and like keeping with it is just so crazy impressive. Like he went from the top all the way to the bottom, which would make most people kind of quit or give
Mhm.
up or migrate or whatever. He kept with it, man. And now TFS, in my opinion, is the number one alliance again. They've taken so many strong players. They have Fluffy now. They have Tox now. I mean,
A number of people from Five went there too as well.
yeah, some. Yeah, a bunch of people from Luna went there. Yeah, man. Like I'm just so impressed. And like alliances, they'll have their ups and downs. But like if I came back to play, it would be TFS, man, because you've seen what happens. If TFS has a down period, they're gonna go back up. Anybody else when they have a down period, look at BDO, they died. Look at the Luna leadership that was in there, they died. Look at Satoru, he died. Look at all the alliances that have died from the top, and then look what Jason's done with TFS. I'm just really impressed, man. I gotta give him kudos. He was on my hate list at one point, when I rage quit because he wouldn't listen to me. But man, I think that he's learned, he's gotten better. He's just crushing it right now. So kudos to Jason. Um, yeah, so Jason, want to give a shout out to my ex-wife Medusa, my longest e-girlfriend in CallofDragons. Just outstanding woman, man. Thankful to know her. She's awesome. Um, Shout out to Medusa. E-dating, by the way, that's a whole different topic, BN. Um, you know how Satoru butchered the e-dating or whatever. Fun fact, did you know that many people are R5s just for e-dating?
Ah, so I will say that I've heard whispers from a very small amount of people that have alluded to that, maybe not have said that in those exact particular and very specific words, but I think based on what I have heard and do know, I wouldn't be ultimately shocked, but that is
Look,
interesting.
I'll just break the veil for you here. It's real. Whenever I've been R5, I've gone on a lot of e dates. I've had a lot of e girlfriends. We call them R5 bunnies, man. They're out there.
Oh my
If you're an
gosh.
R5, you're gonna get a lot of e dates. It's just the truth. A lot of people. I think that Moopsy. I think the reason he wanted to be an R5 was so that he'd actually have a girlfriend for once. Just my 2 cents.
Oh, I'm so done. Okay, touche. So on one of the notes, I will say this. Well, at least on the TFS portion, is I will briefly say that there, because I do, man, like it very much to me is a comeback story, and it is a feel good story as well when you think about where they were, which was the number one kingdom in the game for consecutive, many consecutive months. They were the number one alliance for consecutive months. And then out of nowhere, they basically more or less crash and burn and just have to kind of go into like, let's just burn the field. Let's replant some new soil, replant some seeds. Like, really had to kind of, wait it out and see how things went. And for them to kind of start climbing their way back up the mountain as they have, I just don't think you can look at that any other way besides acknowledgement of their diligence, of their resiliency or resilience just to make that daily effort to get back and claw back to where they were. So I effortlessly second that because I feel the exact same way.
It's really unique, man. Like in my 20 years of gaming, I might have seen it once or twice. Like it's really unique going from all the way to the top,
Because it wasn't like they were just
crashing.
some raggedy kingdom. It wasn't like they were just like, one of those like middle of the ground A
They were
tiers,
they were
right? Or a top
trash.
B.
They were trash. No
Yeah.
offense, no offense to the people there. You're cool people, but your accounts were not good. The reason that people were in TFS for the most part was because they weren't good enough to go to Echo. Like they were not good, and I think they got destroyed in their first season. But somehow, man, they rebounded, and now they went from trash to gold, trash to platinum. Just really cool story.
No. No, absolutely. And then there was one topic left, Boozer, and that is apparently a sayonara from you.
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, to the Call of Dragons community, it's been your pleasure to have me.
It's the
I
end of
know
a
you've
golden
learned a
age.
lot. Yeah, it's the end of the golden age. You've gotten to learn from me. You've never beaten me, but you've always won with me. So, you can always have those memories. I don't plan on coming back. I'm still part of a few groups, we just yap in for fun. Um, but I'm not coming back. Maybe one day if one of my good friends puts out the boo signal, I might come in help war lead one day or two. But otherwise, man, I'm not coming back. I don't have any plans for the immediate future. I've already defeated all my enemies. Everybody on the hate list has lost to me countless times. None of them have ever beaten me. I've destroyed YY. He talks shit and now he's quit. Largely because of me. Because I taught him a lesson after that. Um, just it's been awesome beating everyone up. It's been awesome winning with people. I'm gonna move on to future games. Find new enemies to beat. Truth is, most people here were not that good. I've had stronger enemies in other games by far. CallofDragons was pretty easy. But anyway, you guys, hopefully you can learn from my war tips a little bit, learn to be a better F5. And if you see a boo in a future game, just ask about my Night Rock. Then you'll know if it was me or if it's a different boo.
Understood. Well, if anything, I'm sorry, the boo signal thing is killing me. That is great. Has anyone made that? Has that ever been posted?
No, it's kind of a top secret right now. So
Okay,
I've revealed it
very hush
that
hush.
one day put the boo signal out if you're one of my close friends. Hey, maybe you'll get a win.
Okay, I'm done. Oh, that's too good. Well, boo, I will say again, I think I could speak for the community on this front where I think no matter what, you will be missed. There is always going to be a need, I don't want to say a filler, but maybe a demand could even be loosely said of people that are activators and activators in the sense of just conversation, of engagement, of motivation, of being a brother in arms, of being someone who wants to try and get the best out of you in their own way. And I think that's something. And there's been a number of people like that. Like I think one example of that for me would have been someone like oh God, why am I forgetting his name right now? That I usually see him in the chats with me, or it used to be in the VCs. Rambo's the homie, and like that used to be someone you would see, and he still floats around, right? But like that was someone you used to see was very much an activator and engager on COD Discord, along with a number of other people. And I will just say, man, it sucks to see those people go. So, like I said, man, I definitely feel like you will be missed, and I really appreciate you taking some time to sit down with me. And I'm happy to be the beacon that that makes your light shine just that much more.
Right on, yeah. No, it was fun, man. I may be the greatest, but you're the number three creator, right behind Guns. So keep up the good work.
Oh man, I
For the
appreciate.
most part.
Listen, all that means is I got more rope to climb. So I appreciate that.
There you go. And as always, keep messing with Moopsy. That's my only ask to the community.
Gotcha. All right, man. Well, man, thank you so much, bro. I appreciate the time. And let us know in the comments what you think, how it's just how it went overall, and if there's any, who knows, if there's enough support, and maybe if there's enough questions out there, or if people have enough engaging comments. We'll see what happens in the future. But let us know what you think down there below. And that's going to be it for us. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.